Hi, I'm Emily Agnew from Luminous Listening with another video for you. This one is a companion to the article I wrote a couple weeks ago called How Shaky Boundaries Turn Your Sweet Self into a Cranky Ogre. And in that, I talked about the importance of recognizing the value, the validity of your own needs, and also accepting your powerlessness over other people. Those are the first steps towards realizing that you need to set clean boundaries. But once you've decided you want to do that, how do you do that? This is actually not so easy to do. Many people, sensitive or not, struggle to set clean boundaries. So let's talk about this more. I'm sure that you're familiar with the scenario from TV cop shows where you have your good cop and your bad cop, and the perp is sitting in an interrogation room and the bad cop comes in and roughs him up a bit, and then the good cop comes in and offers him something to drink and a cigarette, and they're both trying to get the suspect to talk, right? But with different methods. So I don't enjoy being a bad cop. I just feel bad. I don't like getting angry. I don't want to be a doormat either, but trying to force other people to do what I want doesn't work. And when I try to do it, even try to get them to do what I'd like them to do through anger, it just feels awful. So I want to use clear boundaries to be my bad cop. My boundaries can stand in the back of the room like Eddie, the bad cop, and I can be the nice guy who comes in and says, say, to my teenager, "Hey, I'd be happy to drive you to John's house just as soon as you're done with the vacuuming upstairs." You hear the difference between that and me saying, like if I let my inner Eddie bad cop come forward, uh, that part of me would say, "You better get that vacuuming done right now. You think I'm going to take you to your friend's house when you haven't done your chores?" And so on. So if I do that, my teen is going to be angry at me, which is a distraction in addition to being unpleasant. The whole thing is ineffective. So that's just a parenting example. Well, let's look at some other examples. I spoke last time about Visa. Visa is my boundary guru because they just keep it so simple. There's no hard feelings. It's just clean. You pay late, you get a fee, right? So let's just distill out the boundary principles that are included in that. One is that a clean, effective boundary focuses on actions that are 100% in your control, right? Visa can charge me money, and they do. They just tell me the circumstances under which they'll do it. We'll loan you the money for 28 days. If you don't pay it off, here's what you'll pay. So, and also, a clean boundary is reminder free, right? You don't bug the other person about it. So if you think you've set a boundary, but you find yourself reminding, even in a helpful way, happens with kids a lot, maybe with partners, spouses, if you find yourself reminding or let alone nagging, then you haven't yet found a boundary that really allows you to let go of trying to control the other person. I mean, can you imagine Visa calling you up and saying, "Are you sure you don't want to pay your bill? You realize what kind of a late fee we're going to be sending you next week?" No, they don't do that. It's your responsibility. So it's like you set the boundary and you let it go. So 100% in your control, reminder free. And then here, the most important thing is the way you feel. This is a sign, an unmissable sign of a great boundary is, "Oh, thank God." It brings this sigh of relief. And if it's a really elegant one, it'll probably bring a smile to your face. Because when you set a clean boundary, you are giving up trying to do the impossible. You cannot control other people. That's a fact. So it is stressful to try, and it's a relief to stop trying. So your defensiveness, your anger, your anxiety will drop away when you find a clean boundary and really let go of control. And once you hone that response into something that you really do have control over, you'll just feel positively serene. So let's look at another example that I personally was very proud of from my oboe reed business that I ran for 20 years. 20 years, and never once was I stiffed. Never once did I have a check bounce. Never once did I have to bug anyone for money. Why? Because I had an awesome boundary in place. It was elegant and perfect. I just let people know in the kindest possible way up front. Here's how I do it. As soon as I receive your check, I will put you in the line, to start orders. I have a waiting list of 3 weeks or whatever, but I would, so people without fail, because they wanted the reads, they needed the reads, they couldn't play without the reads, so they would send me their check and they'd make sure that it was good. So that was an example of a very simple, great boundary. Now let's look at a more personal one. I got permission from a former client, a very dear person, said that it was okay with her for me to share this story. I've changed the names. But she had a boyfriend named Sam. And this is a story of them and Halloween, because they'd been together for a while, and every year Halloween would be this stressor for them, because she explained to me that they had really different styles. He was kind of a spontaneous, last minute kind of person, and he would just like conceive of his costume the day before, sometimes even the day of, and then just work like crazy and get in a bit of a crisis sometimes. And she would be stressed every year at Halloween because she loved Halloween too, and she really is more of a planner. So she said, I started noticing that this year for Halloween that I was putting off going to start getting the stuff because I wanted to do it together. But we were so busy and we were on such different schedules. I knew it would never happen. So I told Sam, I know he likes to do things right before, right? That's the piece she can't control. She knows that that's what he likes. But that I was going to get my costume all ready a couple days before so I wouldn't have to worry about it. I scheduled my time so that after work, before the party, I would be able to finish making my costume and get ready. So see, she told him what she was going to do, and very clear that this is all stuff that's under her control, right? To start early, so then here's where sometimes if you haven't kept clean boundaries with someone, they'll push, or you have to keep your boundaries. So she had to drop Sam off, I guess, at the place where they were having the party to put the final touches on things. And she wrote to me, as I dropped him off, he asked me to go get a few things for his costume and run a couple more errands. And here's where she kept her boundary. I told him, sorry, but I specifically went out of my way to get my costume ahead so I wouldn't have to do this at the last minute. I could have picked it up for you if you wanted me to, but I won't take on your stress now. And I told him I would run a couple of the errands that I did have time for and grab stuff from home because she was going home anyway, but that was it. And he agreed. He's like, oh, I see you, right. This is what you said you would do. And she just felt, I can't tell you the relief. We discussed this later, and there was this palpable sense of relief in her voice that she realized she actually had a sense of self-empowerment in this situation that had been going on for a long time. So those are some examples of what I would call loving adult boundaries that focus on what you can control and not on trying to get the other person to do something, and that'll leave you feeling peaceful. Like I said, you can tell you found a good boundary when you can just put it out of your mind because you just know that you know what you're going to do depending on what the other person does. Okay? So the final thing I want to say about this is that setting a boundary like this, there's words and content involved, but it's energetic too, and that's not a subtle thing. I have found often that once I set a clear boundary, people don't push it anymore. It's so interesting. It's like they can feel it. It's exactly like a business that has a sign out front that says closed. You don't go knocking on the door because you see they're closed. And it's as if I'm saying, I'm closed for business for this kind of behavior. Don't take light checks or whatever. Yeah, so that's really a nice feature of clear boundaries is that once you get clear, you won't be bothered by things anymore. You may get a little testing like she did, but then. So check out that article about the ogre. It's on my blog post at www.luminoselistening.com, along with tons of other videos and articles of this kind that I hope would be helpful to you. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate it.